Hey everyone, my name is Tyler Mowry, and welcome to the Writer's Mind Podcast, Episode 8. Okay, so in this episode, I want to talk about something that is really interesting. I was thinking about this recently, but I want to start off by telling you guys a quick story. So when I was young or younger, I guess it was 11 or 12, I moved into this house for a summer. So my parents, they had sold our house a little quicker than they thought they were going to, and we didn't have a house to move into. And so we stayed with this family friend for, I guess it was a couple months until we figured out our new place to stay. And in this house, they had a piano, and I'd never had a piano until this point. And I was taught like just a few chord progressions, and I thought it was fun. And so I would go to the piano and play a little bit, whatever. I didn't really know notes. I didn't know how to read music or anything like that. I just knew some of these chord progressions, and it was fun to play. And so then my mom put me into piano lessons because of this. And I'm pretty sure I asked for them. And so I enrolled in lessons, and I immediately hated playing. My teacher, she was great, but she was having me play things I didn't want to play. She was teaching me elements of piano I didn't care about. She was, trying to give me this rigid structure where every day I had to play for an hour or something like this, and I hated it. Immediately, I went from loving messing around on the piano to hating every time I had to sit in front of this thing. And then later on, I did that for, I guess, 2 years, something like that. And the entire time I was begging my parents to let me quit. I hated it. I didn't want to do it. I wanted them to let me quit. And so eventually, with enough whining, they let me quit. And then I didn't play for a while. I didn't play through high school. And then my second year of college, I saw this arrangement of the Interstellar main theme on piano. And it was on YouTube, and this guy was showing how to play it. I think it was Patrick Peichman or something. I'm sure you could find it on YouTube still. And I loved it. I loved the score. I loved Interstellar, and I loved his arrangement on piano. And I was like, I'm going to learn this. And so my college had piano rooms, like music rooms where you could play. And so I would go there and I would play and just trying to learn this particular piece because I just wanted to learn this particular piece. And it took me a really long time because I hadn't played piano in a long time. I didn't really know notes, but I was like, I'm going to learn how to play this thing. And I did. I learned how to play it, and I love it. It's super cool. I haven't played it in a while, but I need to. And then after that, I started looking up on YouTube some other songs I wanted to play. And I found other songs, and I started learning them, And then suddenly, I was playing piano again. And this really goes down to this idea that I heard from Nassim Taleb, and he said Nassim Taleb is a writer and writes a lot about like economics, sociology, these sort of things. This book right here is by him, Anti-Fragile. He said in one of his books, what I learned on my own, I still remember. And essentially, when I was playing piano as a kid by myself before lessons, I loved it. I loved learning about it. I thought it was interesting. And then I suddenly had a forced schedule, this structure that I didn't want, that was showing me and teaching me songs that I didn't want to play, and then I hated it, and then I left it, and then came back to it and was playing things that I wanted to play once again. And so I really think that a lot of learning operates in this way, what you learn on your own, you remember. Things that you wanted to learn, you will hold with you. And I think that this is not that every single person is like this, but a lot of the time, things are not going to be like really ingested into your knowledge or part of your wisdom and application unless you're the one that legitimately wants to learn that thing. How many times were you in school where you took a test and you crammed before and then you took the test and then forgot everything that you learned, right? And people say, oh, I can't imagine, isn't that such a waste of time? You shouldn't, be doing this. And it's like, well, yeah, most of structured learning is a waste of time. I hated the high school and college structure. Now, I'm sure not everybody did, but I hated it. Now, I still got good grades, but that's just because it was pretty easy to do. My mom hates when I ever mention this, but I spent most of my high school and college time sitting in class playing games on, playing app games or playing games on my laptop or essentially doing anything except for paying attention in the class. And I was obsessed with what I was obsessed about. I was obsessed with writing. I was obsessed with stories. I was obsessed with making my first YouTube channel. And that's what I was doing. And if you sat me back down in a college biology class, I would know, I would have a general gist, of course, like other people, but I would not have a working knowledge, right? And part of the problem is kind of twofold. It's one, you don't retain information your brain doesn't think you need. Or if you don't think you need a particular piece of information, you're not going to retain it. That's why I couldn't do calculus right now, even though I sat through calculus classes. Your brain remembers things that you need and apply, right? And so that's why I think if you have a goal, it makes it a lot easier to learn things, and it makes it a lot easier to remember things, and you have much more applied knowledge because you are needing particular knowledge to head towards a particular goal. And so, I don't like tests. Not that they're completely useless, but I don't like tests in the sense of tests are not what is going to actually show that you are going to be a critical thinking, dynamic person, right? Like taking a test is memorization or these sorts of things. It's not really application. And so, that's why my course doesn't have any tests, right? Because honestly, I don't care if you learn the info or not. I want you to. I really hope you do. And if you want to, then I'm here to help you do that. But if you don't care, then it doesn't matter to you. So, even kids in school, in high school and whatever, they understand that when their parents tell them this particular piece of information, may not be valuable, but school is helpful for your long term. Like, okay, so essentially what happens a lot of time is the reasoning is, hey, learn information that you don't need so that you can do something later. This is part of the process of getting the thing you want later. And whereas it makes a lot more sense to have a goal and then be learning the information that you need to move in that direction, right? And so I think that ideally, your goal is to be a critical thinker. Your goal is to be a person who has knowledge in multiple different areas. But the problem is you are not going to cultivate that knowledge in different areas of life until you have decided that you want that for yourself. Right? This is part of the idea of, being a sovereign individual, making up your own mind, having your own thoughts, right? Of course, the general topics that school, structured learning is teaching you are important. But the way that they teach it is terrible. They don't give you a why. They don't give you reasons to be engaged, right? And so this is why that I think that, what this is not, what this little rant here is not, is this is not me promoting, not learning, or what this is me promoting you seeking out information for yourself, right? And also being interested in things, right? Most of my knowledge base about different areas of life is because I'm interested in a lot of stuff. I as a person am interested in history. I as a person am interested in philosophy. I as a person am interested in psychology. And I think that if you are really a person who is trying to improve and trying to become a critical thinker, so many things can be interesting to you. For me, I almost have to pull myself away from different rabbit holes I will go down, because I will get obsessed with things that aren't part of, what I'm trying to do right now. And it's not that those things are bad. It's that I can't spend all of my time on things that I'm learning about for hobbies or whatever. So, I think you really have to learn about what you want to learn about. That's really where knowledge, the beginning of your knowledge, comes from. Because when you learn about what you want to learn about, you are now gaining the skill of learning, right? And that's the first thing you want to do, right? The first thing that you are trying to build is not a knowledge base on different topics. The first thing that you're trying to do is build the understanding of how learning works. And learning works through information that you find useful because of application in your life, application in your mindset, application for the long term, these sorts of things. And so, yes, you want a working knowledge of different of these different basic fields of study, but the first thing that you need to be doing is getting a working knowledge on how learning works, right? You do have to learn how to learn. You do have to learn how to critically think. You do have to learn how to understand the information that's coming at you, and you need to learn how to follow the trails of information that is interesting to you. I think part of the problem, you have so many people who they talk about how they have no idea what they want to do with their life or with their career or whatever. And I understand that, it can be confusing. It's also difficult to say, okay, this is the one thing as a 18-year-old or a 20-year-old, this is the one thing that I want to do for the rest of my life. That's a hard choice to make. But I think what you have to do is say, okay, what do you need to do to get interested in things? How do you get interested in things? And just like, I made in episode 7 of the podcast, I made the analogy of the video game, where you slowly you gain a knowledge base by playing a video game that allows you to then handle the bigger challenges over time. And I think that that's just how life works. And what happens is when you are learning something, you start to enjoy the fact that you are seeing your own progress in a particular field of study or, whatever. And so that, I think, is what you need to cultivate in yourself, is you need to cultivate this enjoyment of learning and watching yourself grow in a particular field of study. And the way that you watch yourself grow in a particular field, ours being writing, is by applying what you are learning and then seeing results based upon the information that you have learned and the application that you have done with that information. Which is why you should write, learn, be interested, write more, and then you're slowly beginning to see, oh, look at how my scripts are getting better because of the information I'm taking in. I'm taking in this information, I'm applying it, and now I'm writing better. And that is such a fantastic experience. It's so rewarding to feel that. it's so rewarding to see, oh my, like this is clearly connected. And I can do this again and again and again. And I don't just have to do this with writing. I can do this with all sorts of areas in life. That's what you have to learn. And I think that the earlier you learn that in life, the better you are going to be. Because when you are making the connection between learning, applying knowledge, and seeing results because of applied knowledge, there's all sorts of different areas of life that you can improve heavily. And the problem with traditional, sort of structured school is they don't ever really give you that, right? Especially, honestly, it's almost worse if you're just kind of naturally good at memorization, like I am, where you memorize what is being told to you, you look at a study guide or you read a book or whatever, you write that information down on a piece of paper, you get your grade, great. You don't feel accomplished. You don't feel like this matters. You don't feel like this is going anywhere. And you also don't feel in control of what is going on. And if you don't feel in control of the things that you're learning, that's frustrating. Because you're just learning because somebody is telling you to do something. And when that's happening, you don't have any ownership over your own knowledge base. You're just, here's a person, they say I need to know this and learn this, great. And so when you can establish that why in yourself, why am I learning this? What is the purpose of this? Then that's going to help you, go forward and actually make legitimate progress. It's also why even, people go to college. College is extremely overpriced and pretty much a scam at this point, right? Like people are paying thousands and thousands and thousands a year going into crazy debt for a piece of paper that says they learned some junk, right? It's such a wild scam, and it's one of the reasons that not for everyone, because I don't know if everyone can be a critical thinker and really carve their own path. But if you are trying to be a critical thinker who is carving their own path, doing their own things, and taking ownership and control of what you're doing and what you want, then you need to get away from this idea of, I learned this chunk of thing and then I get a credential for it, right? You should just be learning things and applying it. Like that's the whole process. Not chasing credentials or chasing, these sort of rewards that don't actually have anything tangible to do with your own knowledge base and your application of that knowledge. And so that's why when I was sitting in class in college, I was writing YouTube videos because I was studying writing and making videos about writing and wanting to fully create my point of view on how writing works and how a story works and how you apply that and how a particular writer should practically go about the process of getting better as a writer. And it's funny because that the system is applicable to all sorts of areas of life, but we are also writers, and so we get to be more specific and look at how it particularly applies to writing. And so, it actually is funny, my last semester of school, there was a sophomore level class, like a general education class that I hadn't taken, and it was something that I needed to just go back and do. And I did well in college. I had A's and B's, and I got into this class, and the entire time I was just completely checked out. I was doing literally anything except this class. I was working on YouTube. I was working on screenplays. I was outlining. I was even reading at some points. I was just completely unengaged, and it was my first C that I ever got in college, and it was my last semester, and it was for a class that should have been just, walk through and get an easy grade. But at that point, I had been completely disengaged with the traditional college process and was at this point just on my own path. And for me, that was great. That's where I wanted to be. And I'm glad that that's where I went. And so you have to develop the confidence that you can do this. You can carve your own path, find knowledge that you need and apply it. And you also have to actually do that and not use these things as an excuse to just not work or not get anything done or not improve your knowledge base. The reason that I started playing piano when I was that kid was because I loved it. The reason I studied writing and have stuck with writing is because I love it. If you don't build that, it doesn't matter how much information is thrown at you. That's what you have to realize. So, that's going to make all the difference. And I hope you enjoyed this video or this episode of the podcast if you're listening on audio. And I will see you in the next one.